She led him toward her old sedan, Sophie supporting him on the other side. The car had seen better days, with rust spots on the doors and a crack in the windshield, but it ran. That was all that mattered. "We need to get you to a hospital," Claire said as she helped him into the back seat. "That head wound needs attention, and you might have a concussion." "No hospitals," he said quickly. "Please. The people who did this, they might be watching." Claire paused at the driver's door. "Sir, you need medical care. You could have internal injuries." "Mom's nice," Sophie piped up from the front passenger seat. "She works at Nashville General." The man looked at Claire with new respect. "Then I'm even luckier than I thought. But please, I'm begging you. No hospitals tonight. They'll be watching all of them." Claire wrestled with the decision. Her training said he needed a hospital. Her instinct said he was terrified. She looked at his face in the rearview mirror and saw genuine fear. "I have supplies at home," she found herself saying. "Basic stuff. I can clean that wound and check you over. But if I see anything serious, you're going to the hospital whether you like it or not." "Deal," he said, relief flooding his features. She started the car and pulled back onto the road. Sophie turned in her seat to look at their passenger. "I'm Sophie. That's my mom, Claire." "Vincent," he said. "Vincent Romano." Claire's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She knew that name. Everyone in Nashville knew that name, even if they didn't want to. Vincent Romano ran half the city's underground operations. Her first instinct was to pull over and tell him to get out. But when she looked in the mirror again, she didn't see a criminal. She saw a man who had nearly died, who had been betrayed, who was asking for help. She saw someone who needed mercy. "It's nice to meet you, Vincent," she said, making her choice. "Let's get you home." Claire's apartment was small but clean, a second-floor walk-up in a neighborhood that had seen better days. She helped Vincent up the stairs while Sophie unlocked the door. Inside, the living room held a worn couch, a small television, and pictures of Sophie everywhere. "Sit here," Claire directed, pointing to the kitchen chair she pulled out. "Sophie, get my medical bag from the bathroom closet." Vincent sat down carefully, his body aching from the ordeal. He watched as Claire washed her hands and laid out supplies on the table. Her movements were efficient and gentle. Sophie returned with a large first aid kit. "This is going to sting," Claire warned as she cleaned the cut above his eye. True to her word, the antiseptic burned, but Vincent didn't flinch. "I've had worse," he said. Claire worked in silence for a few minutes, checking his pupils, feeling gently along his skull for signs of fracture, examining his bruised wrists where the ropes had cut into his skin. Sophie sat across from them, watching with wide eyes. "You don't have a concussion," Claire finally said. "But you're going to be sore for days. Those rope burns need to stay clean. I'll bandage them, and you should take it easy." "Thank you, Claire. Truly." Vincent's voice was thick with gratitude. "I know who I am. I know what you must think of me." Claire met his eyes as she wrapped gauze around his wrist. "Right now, I think you're a man who was left to die. That's all I need to think about." A knock at the door made everyone freeze. Claire glanced at the clock. It was past midnight. She moved to the door and peered through the peephole. "It's Detective Morrison," she said, looking back at Vincent. Vincent's face paled. "How did he find me?" "The train conductor called it in. They found the cut ropes and your blood. They are probably checking every hospital and urgent care in the city." Claire made another choice. "You can go out the back if you want. Give you a head start." Vincent stared at her. "You would let me go?" "I would let you make your own choice." He was quiet for a moment, then shook his head. "Let him in. I'm tired of running. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Maybe this is how it should end." Claire opened the door. Detective Frank Morrison stood there, his badge already out. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too much. "Ms. Bennett," he said. "I'm Detective Morrison. I need to ask you some questions about what happened tonight." "Come in, Detective," she said, stepping aside. Morrison walked in and stopped when he saw Vincent. "Romano, I should have known you'd be mixed up in this." "Hello, Frank," Vincent said wearily. "Who did this to you?" Morrison asked, pulling out a notebook. "I'm not saying." "Of course you're not." Morrison sighed and looked at Claire. Can you tell me what happened? Claire recounted the evening, Sophie adding details here and there. Morrison took notes, his expression growing more concerned as the story went on. You and your daughter could have been killed, he said when she finished. We weren't. He was going to be. Morrison studied her face. You know who this man is, what he does. I know he's a human being who was tied to train tracks, Claire said firmly. I know he needed help. That's enough. Mom always says everyone deserves kindness, Sophie added, even when it's hard. Morrison closed his notebook and looked at Vincent. Someone wants you dead pretty badly. I can't protect you if you don't tell me who. I'll handle it my own way, Vincent said. Your way got you tied to train tracks. Then maybe it's time I changed my way. Vincent looked at Claire and Sophie. These two risked everything for me. They didn't have to. They didn't even know me. That means something. That means everything. 3 days passed. Claire went to work at the hospital, came home, and tried to return to normal life. But normal felt different now. She kept checking over her shoulder, kept watching for suspicious cars on her street. Vincent had checked into a hotel under a false name after Detective Morrison left that night. He called Claire once to thank her again and to check that she and Sophie were safe. She told him they were fine, but she wasn't sure that was true. On Thursday evening, Claire was leaving the grocery store with Sophie when 2 men approached them in the parking lot. They were young, maybe late 20s, wearing expensive leather jackets and cold expressions. Claire Bennett, the taller one, asked. Claire pulled Sophie closer. Who's asking? Mr. Brennan wants you to know that Vincent Romano's problems aren't your concern. Stay away from him. Don't talk to the police. Forget what you saw. Are you threatening me? Claire's voice was steady despite her racing heart. We're offering friendly advice. For your sake and your daughter's. Sophie pressed against Claire's side. Claire felt anger rise in her chest. Get away from us. Now. The men didn't move. Then a voice rang out across the parking lot. Hey, is there a problem here? Claire turned to see Dr. Richard Hayes, the hospital administrator, walking toward them with several other staff members from Nashville General. They must have been shopping too. Behind them, more people were emerging from the store, drawn by the commotion. The 2 men looked at the growing crowd and backed away. Remember what we said, the tall one muttered before they left. Dr. Hayes reached Claire's side. Are you all right? Should I call the police? Claire was shaking now. I'm okay. Thank you for stepping in. We'll look after our own, Dr. Hayes said firmly. He looked at the other staff members. Maybe we should make sure Claire and Sophie get home safely. That night, Vincent's hotel room door opened to reveal Detective Morrison. How did you find me? Vincent asked. I'm a detective. It's what I do. Morrison came in and closed the door. Tommy Brennan's men approached Claire Bennett in a parking lot today. They threatened her and her daughter. Vincent's hands clenched into fists. Is Sophie okay? Is Claire okay? They are fine. Hospital staff intervened. But Romano, this is what I was afraid of. That woman saved your life, and now she's in danger because of you. Vincent paced the room. I never wanted this. I never wanted them involved. Then help me end this. Tell me what happened that night. Let me arrest Brennan. You don't understand. Tommy has protection. Connections. If I testify against him, more people will get hurt. And if you don't, Claire and Sophie are sitting ducks. Vincent stopped pacing. Morrison was right. The code he had lived by, the rules of his world, they meant nothing compared to the safety of the woman and girl who had saved him. All right, he said quietly. I'll tell you everything. But I want protection for them. Full protection. Done, Morrison said, pulling out his recorder. The next morning, Claire found a check in her mailbox for $5,000. The note read, For your grocery money and any trouble I've caused. Please accept this with my deepest gratitude. Vincent. Claire's first instinct was to tear it up. She didn't want his money. But then she looked at the overdue bills on her counter, thought about Sophie's upcoming school field trip she couldn't afford, remembered the notice from their landlord about the rent increase. Sophie came into the kitchen. What's that, Mom? It's from Vincent, Claire said. He sent us money. That's nice of him. He seems like a good person, even though he made bad choices. Claire looked at her wise daughter. You're right, baby. Sometimes good people make bad choices. And sometimes those people deserve a second chance. She deposited the check that afternoon. Vincent sat in the hotel room and stared at his phone. He had spent 2 hours with Detective Morrison, revealing everything he knew about his organization's operations. It felt like betrayal, but it also felt like relief. For 20 years, he had built an empire on fear and control. He told himself he was just providing services that people wanted, that he was no worse than the politicians and businessmen who broke laws in expensive suits. But lying on those train tracks, he had seen the truth. None of it mattered. None of it was worth dying for. A knock at the door made him tense. It's Father O'Brien, a voice called. Vincent opened the door to see an elderly priest with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I'm sorry, Father, but I didn't call for a priest. I know. Detective Morrison asked me to check on you. He's worried about your soul. Father O'Brien's eyes twinkled. May I come in? Vincent stepped aside, feeling awkward. I'm not much for church, Father. Haven't been in years. All the more reason for me to visit. The priest settled into the room's single chair. Morrison tells me you've decided to cooperate with the investigation. That's a brave choice. It's a necessary choice. A woman and her daughter saved my life, and now they're in danger because of me. I can't let that stand. Father O'Brien nodded. Tell me about that night. About Claire and Sophie. Vincent found himself talking. He described the terror of being tied to the tracks, the approaching train, the certainty of death. Then he described Claire and Sophie running toward him instead of away, their hands working frantically at the ropes, their refusal to leave him behind. Sophie couldn't have been more than 12 years old, Vincent said, his voice breaking. She could have died. They both could have died. But they didn't hesitate. Not for a second. And that changed something in you, Father O'Brien said softly. Everything. I've done terrible things, Father. I've hurt people. I've broken families. I've put profit over people for so long that I forgot what it meant to just be human. Vincent sat down on the bed. But Claire and Sophie, they showed me something I'd forgotten existed. Pure kindness. No angle. No agenda. Just compassion. Grace, Father O'Brien said. That's what you experienced. Unearned, undeserved grace. And now you want to deserve it. Is it too late for someone like me? The priest leaned forward. Vincent, do you know the story of the thief on the cross? Not really. When Jesus was crucified, there were 2 thieves hanging on crosses beside him. One mocked him, but the other admitted his guilt and asked Jesus to remember him. And Jesus promised him paradise that very day. Father O'Brien smiled. It's never too late to change, Vincent. Never too late to choose a different path. They talked for another hour. When the priest left, Vincent felt lighter than he had in years. He picked up his phone and found Claire's number. Hello. Her voice was cautious. Claire, it's Vincent. I wanted to let you know that Detective Morrison has your family under protection. Tommy Brennan won't be able to threaten you again. I know. There's been a police car outside our building. Vincent, you didn't have to do all this. Yes, I did. You saved my life. You accepted my help without judging me. That means more than you know. He paused. I got the check deposited. Thank you for accepting it. It helps more than you know, Claire admitted. But Vincent, what about you? Are you safe? The question surprised him. She was still thinking about his well-being. I'm taking steps to change my life, Claire. Real steps. I'm done with the old ways. I'm glad to hear that. Sophie keeps asking about you. She wants to know if you're okay. Tell her I'm getting there. And Claire, thank you. For everything. Vincent stood outside Grace Romano's apartment door. His hand hovered over the doorbell. He hadn't seen his wife in 2 years, not since she had left him with tears streaming down her face and a suitcase in her hand. He rang the bell. Grace opened the door, and Vincent's breath caught. She looked the same, her dark hair pulled back, her blue eyes cautious. Vincent, she said. I heard what happened. I've been worried. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. The apartment was smaller than their old house, but it was warm and filled with light. Pictures of their wedding day sat on the mantel. She had kept them. "I'm leaving the life, Grace," he said without preamble. "I'm cooperating with the police. I'm dismantling everything I built." Grace sat down slowly. "Why now? After all these years?" He told her about the train tracks, about Claire and Sophie, about the moment he realized none of his power or money meant anything when facing death. "A nurse and her 12-year-old daughter saved me," he said. "They risked everything for a stranger. They showed me what real courage looks like, what real goodness looks like." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I tried to tell you, Vincent. I tried so many times. I know. I wasn't ready to hear it. But I am now." He moved closer to her. "I don't expect you to take me back. I don't deserve that. But I want you to know that I'm going to be a different man. The man you deserved all along." "What will you do? Where will you go?" "I have money, legitimate money from real estate investments. I want to use it to do something good, to help people who need second chances, the way I got one." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "This is a check for Claire Bennett. It will pay off her debts, set up a college fund for Sophie, and give her some security. But I don't know how to give it to her, without it seeming wrong." Grace looked at the check, and then at Vincent. For the first time in years, she saw the man she had married. The man who had once brought groceries to elderly neighbors and fixed broken playground equipment in the park. "Let me help you," she said. "Let me meet her. Woman to woman, let me thank her for saving your life." 2 days later, Grace knocked on Claire's apartment door. When Claire answered, Grace introduced herself and explained why she was there. Claire invited her in, and they sat at the small kitchen table over coffee. "My husband was a difficult man," Grace said. "Stubborn, prideful. But he was also capable of great love. I left him because I couldn't watch him destroy himself anymore." "I'm not sure why you're telling me this," Claire said gently. "Because you did what I couldn't. You showed him there was another way to live. You saved him twice, Claire. Once on those tracks and again by showing him kindness he didn't deserve." Grace handed her the envelope. Claire opened it and gasped at the check amount. "This is too much. I can't accept this." "Please," Grace said. "You gave me back my husband. You gave him a reason to change. This isn't charity, Claire. This is gratitude. Let Vincent help you the way you helped him." Claire looked at the check again, thinking of Sophie's future, thinking of the bills that kept her awake at night. "On one condition," she said. "I want to use some of this to go back to school. I want to become a nurse practitioner. If Vincent really wants to help people get second chances, tell him I'll help him do it." Grace smiled. "Deal." That Sunday, Vincent attended church for the first time in 30 years. He sat in the back pew, feeling out of place in his expensive suit. Then he saw Claire and Sophie enter. Sophie spotted him and waved. Claire smiled and gestured to the empty space beside them. Vincent made his way to their pew and sat down. Sophie reached over and patted his hand. "I'm glad you came," she whispered. So was Vincent. So was Vincent. Detective Morrison sat across from Vincent in the Nashville Police Department's conference room. Spread between them were organizational charts, financial records, and pages of testimony. "This is enough to dismantle the entire operation," Morrison said. "But I have to be straight with you, Vincent. Tommy Brennan has connections. He might walk, or he might only serve a few years." The cold metal bit into Vincent Romano's wrists as consciousness slowly returned. His head throbbed, and the taste of blood filled his mouth. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he was or how he got there. Then reality crashed over him like ice water. He was tied to railroad tracks. Vincent's eyes shot open to the dark Nashville sky above him. The ropes around his wrists and ankles were tight, cutting into his skin with every movement. He tried to scream, but duct tape covered his mouth. His expensive suit was torn and dirty, and he could feel the rough wood of the railroad ties beneath his back. Panic set in as he heard it, the distant rumble of an approaching train. The sound grew louder with each passing second. Vincent pulled against the ropes with all his strength, but whoever had tied him knew what they were doing. The knots wouldn't budge. His mind raced through the evening's events. The meeting at the warehouse. Tommy's nervous behavior. The drink Tommy had offered him. Then nothing. His most trusted man had betrayed him. Vincent had built an empire in Nashville's underworld, and now that empire had turned on him. The train's whistle pierced the night air. Vincent could see the light now, growing brighter as it rounded the distant bend. His heart hammered in his chest. This couldn't be how it ended. Not like this. Not tied down and helpless like an animal. He thought of Grace, his wife who had left him 2 years ago. She had begged him to leave the life, to walk away while he still could. He had chosen power over her. Now he would die alone on these tracks, and she would never know what happened to him. The train was closer now. Vincent could feel the vibrations through the rails beneath him. He closed his eyes and prayed for the first time in 30 years. Then he heard a car engine. Tires on gravel. A door opening. A young girl's voice cut through the night. "Mom, there's someone on the tracks." "Sophie, get back in the car." "Mom, we have to help him." Vincent opened his eyes to see 2 figures running toward him. A woman in scrubs and a young girl in a school jacket. They were his only chance. The woman reached him first, her hands immediately working at the ropes around his wrists. "Sophie, help me with his feet. Hurry." The girl dropped to her knees without hesitation, her small fingers attacking the knots. The train's horn blared again, much closer now. Vincent could see the conductor's face, see the horror as the man realized someone was on the tracks. "I can't get it loose," Sophie cried. "Keep trying, baby. We're not leaving him." Would you risk everything to save someone you didn't know? Subscribe and comment what you would do in Claire's situation. The woman pulled something from her pocket. A small folding knife. She began sewing at the thick rope. The train was so close now that Vincent could feel the wind it pushed ahead of it. "Got his feet," Sophie shouted. The rope around Vincent's wrists gave way just as the train's brake screamed. The woman grabbed his arm, Sophie grabbed the other, and together they pulled him off the tracks. They tumbled into the grass beside the rails just as tons of metal and momentum thundered past them, missing them by mere feet. Claire Bennett held onto the stranger as the train cars rattled past them. Her heart was still racing, and she could feel the man shaking in her arms. Sophie pressed against her other side, breathing hard. "You're okay," Claire whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to him or herself. "You're safe now." When the last car passed and the noise faded into the distance, Claire sat up and looked at the man they had saved. He was older than her, maybe mid-40s, with graying hair and a face that had seen its share of hard times. Blood trickled from a cut above his eyebrow, and his expensive suit was ruined. She reached up and gently removed the duct tape from his mouth. He coughed and gasped for air. "Thank you," he managed to say. "You saved my life." "Can you move?" Claire asked, her nurse training kicking in. "Are you hurt anywhere besides your head?" He tested his arms and legs. "Everything hurts, but I don't think anything's broken." Sophie moved closer. "Who tied you to the tracks, mister?" "Sophie," Claire warned, but the man shook his head. "It's all right. Someone I trusted. Someone I shouldn't have." His voice was rough with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you both. You didn't have to stop." Claire helped him to his feet. He swayed slightly, and she steadied him. "Of course we stopped. We couldn't just drive past someone in trouble." "Most people would have," he said quietly. "I know," Vincent said. "But at least I'll know I told the truth. That I stopped being part of the problem." Morrison studied him. "You've really changed, haven't you?" "I'm trying to. Every day." The police arrested Tommy Brennan 2 days later. The news spread through Nashville's underworld like wildfire. Vincent Romano had cooperated. Vincent Romano had betrayed the code. Some called him a traitor. Others whispered that maybe he had the right idea. Vincent didn't care about the whispers anymore. He was too busy working on his new project. He had rented an office space downtown and hired Rebecca Cole, a social worker who specialized in helping former criminals reintegrate into society. The Second Chances Foundation, Rebecca said, looking at the mission statement Vincent had written. "I like it. But Vincent, this is going to take more than money. It takes trust, and people aren't going to trust you at first." I know, Vincent said. That's why I want Claire Bennett involved. She has credibility in the community. She's respected. If she's willing to work with us, others will follow. He called Claire that evening. I want to offer you a job, he said. Part-time to start, so you can keep working at the hospital. We're starting a foundation to help people who are trying to turn their lives around. We need a healthcare coordinator to connect them with medical services, mental health resources, addiction treatment. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Vincent, I'm not qualified for something like that. You're more qualified than anyone I know. You saw someone in trouble and didn't judge. You just helped. That's exactly what these people need. Can I think about it? Of course. But Claire, I hope you'll say yes. You started this change in me. Help me see it through. She called him back the next morning. I'll do it. On 2 conditions. First, I want to finish my nurse practitioner training. Second, Sophie volunteers with us after school. She's part of this story too. Deal, Vincent said, unable to keep the joy from his voice. The following Sunday, Grace showed up at Vincent's hotel room. She looked nervous, holding her car keys tightly. Can we talk? She asked. They went to a quiet diner and sat in a booth by the window. Grace ordered coffee but didn't drink it. She just held the cup, gathering her courage. I've been watching you, she said finally. I've seen you at church. I've heard about the foundation. I know you've been meeting with Father O'Brien every week. I have, Vincent confirmed. I'm trying to become someone I can be proud of. Someone you could have been proud of. Vincent, I was proud of you once. I fell in love with you because you were kind and strong and believed in helping people. She reached across the table and took his hand. I think that man is coming back, and I want to be there when he does. Vincent's eyes filled with tears. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I want to try again. Slowly. We take it one day at a time. We go to counseling. We rebuild trust. But yes, I want to try. Vincent held her hand like it was precious glass. I'll spend every day earning your trust back, Grace. I promise. They talked for hours, remembering the good times before Vincent lost his way, discussing what their future might look like, planning how they would take small steps toward rebuilding their marriage. When Vincent returned to his hotel that night, he called Father O'Brien to share the news. The priest's joy was genuine and warm. This is what grace looks like, Vincent, Father O'Brien said. Not just receiving forgiveness, but learning to forgive yourself and build something new. I never thought I'd get here, Vincent admitted. But I'm grateful. So grateful. The Second Chances Foundation opened its doors on a bright Monday morning in October. The office space had been transformed into a welcoming center with comfortable chairs, plants, and large windows that filled the rooms with light. Claire arrived early, wearing professional clothes and carrying a briefcase full of resource guides she had spent weeks compiling. Sophie came with her, excited to help set up the youth mentoring program. Vincent greeted them at the door. Grace stood beside him, and the two of them looked happy together in a way that made Claire smile. Welcome to our first official day, Vincent said. Claire, you've already met Rebecca. This is James Porter. He runs a construction company and has agreed to partner with us to provide job training and employment opportunities. James was a sturdy man in his 50s with calloused hands and a genuine smile. My company has hired several men coming out of the system. Good workers, hard workers. They just needed someone to give them a chance. That's what we're all about, Claire said. Second chances. The first client arrived at 9 in the morning. His name was Daniel, a man in his early 30s who had served 5 years for theft. He looked nervous, his eyes darting around the room like he expected to be turned away. Claire approached him with a warm smile. Daniel, I'm Claire Bennett. Welcome. We're glad you're here. I'm not sure I should be here, he said quietly. I messed up pretty bad. We all mess up, Claire said. What matters is what you do next. Come on, let me show you around. By the end of the first week, the foundation had served 15 people. They helped connect people with healthcare, secure housing, find employment, and access counseling services. Sophie spent her afternoons tutoring kids whose parents were in the program. I like helping people, Sophie told her mom on the drive home Friday evening. It makes me feel good inside. That's called purpose, Claire said. You're finding your purpose young, baby. That's a gift. Vincent stood in the foundation office late that Friday night, looking at the files of the people they had helped. Each folder represented a life that could be different, a future that could be better. Grace came up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. You did good this week. We did good, he corrected. This wouldn't exist without you and Claire and Sophie. Without Father Brian and Detective Morrison and everyone who believed I could change. The community is starting to talk, Grace said. Not everyone is happy about what you're doing. Some people think you're just trying to buy forgiveness. Maybe I am, Vincent said honestly. But if buying forgiveness means helping people who need it, I'll do it every day for the rest of my life. The next month brought more clients and more success stories. A woman named Patricia found a job at James Porter's company and sent her son to the tutoring program Sophie helped run. A man named Robert reconnected with his daughter after 5 years of estrangement. A young couple received prenatal care through Claire's connections at the hospital. Dr. Hayes from Nashville General called Claire with an offer. The hospital board has been following what you're doing at the foundation. We want to partner with you. We can provide medical services at reduced rates for your clients. That would be incredible, Claire said. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Thank you, Claire. You're changing lives. Father Brian visited the foundation regularly, offering spiritual guidance to anyone who wanted it. He and Vincent had become close friends, meeting for coffee every Tuesday morning to talk about faith, redemption, and second chances. You know what impresses me most? Father Brian said one Tuesday. You didn't just say you wanted to change. You actually did the work. I had good teachers, Vincent replied. Claire showed me that kindness costs nothing but means everything. You showed me that faith isn't about being perfect but about trying to be better. Grace showed me that forgiveness is possible even when you don't deserve it. And what did you learn from Sophie? Vincent smiled. Sophie taught me that it's never too early to start helping others. That kid has more compassion in her little finger than I had in my whole body. By November, the Second Chances Foundation had helped over 100 people. The local news ran a story about Vincent's transformation, though he declined to be interviewed. He let Claire and Grace speak instead, giving them the credit they deserved. The foundation became known throughout Nashville as a place of hope, a place where people could start over without judgment. Vincent was reviewing grant applications in the foundation office when Detective Morrison called. The tone of his voice put Vincent immediately on edge. We have a problem, Morrison said. Tommy Brennan posted bail this morning. Vincent's hand tightened on the phone. How? His bail was set at $2 million. He had help. Wealthy friends who still believe in his way of doing business. Vincent, you need to be careful. My sources say he's planning something. I'm not afraid of Tommy anymore, Frank. Maybe you should be. He's desperate and angry. Those are dangerous combinations. Vincent thanked Morrison and hung up. He immediately called Grace. Don't go anywhere alone. Stay in public places. Call me every few hours. Vincent, you're scaring me. Good. Be scared. Be careful. Tommy's out. He called Claire next. Is Sophie at school? Yes. Why? Keep her there. I'll send someone to pick both of you up. Don't leave the hospital. Vincent, what's happening? Tommy made bail. He might come after people I care about. You and Sophie top that list. An hour later, Morrison called again. We just got word. Tommy tried to access the foundation's client database remotely. He's looking for addresses, trying to figure out where your clients live. Why would he care about my clients? Revenge. He knows hurting them hurts you. Vincent felt cold fury wash over him. Tommy wasn't just coming after him. He was planning to destroy the one good thing Vincent had built. Where is he now? Vincent asked. We don't know. We've got units looking, but he's gone to ground. Vincent made a decision. He gathered everyone at the foundation, including Claire, Sophie, Grace, Rebecca, James, and Father O'Brien. Detective Morrison joined them with 2 uniformed officers. Tommy's out and is planning something, Vincent said. I won't let him hurt any of you. I won't let him destroy what we've built here. What do we do? Rebecca asked. We do what we've been doing. We help people. We don't hide. We don't run. Vincent looked around the room. But we're smart about it. We work in pairs. We keep our phones on. We watch out for each other. Sophie raised her hand like she was in school. Mr. Vincent, can I say something? Of course, Sophie. You always told us that kindness is stronger than anger. That love wins in the end. Tommy's angry, but we have love. We have each other. That means we're stronger than him. The room fell silent. Then Father O'Brien started clapping. The others joined in. Sophie blushed but smiled. Out of the mouths of babes, the priest said, Sophie's right. We stand together, and we don't let fear win. That evening, Tommy was spotted near Claire's apartment building. Police converged on the location, but he fled. A chase ensued through downtown Nashville. Within an hour, Tommy was caught trying to board a bus to Atlanta. Detective Morrison called Vincent with the news. He had a bag full of fireworks and accelerant. He was planning to set off explosions near the foundation. Nothing that would hurt people, but enough to scare everyone away. Make it look like you brought danger to the community. But he failed, Vincent said. He failed. And this time, his bail is revoked. He's going to prison for a long time, Vincent. That night, Vincent sat in the foundation office with Grace. I should hate him, Vincent said. For what he tried to do, for what he planned. But I just feel sad. Why sad? Because Tommy was my friend once. We grew up together. And somewhere along the way, we both chose the wrong path. The difference is I got a chance to change. I got Claire and Sophie saving my life. I got Father Brian and you and everyone here giving me another chance. Tommy never got that. Grace leaned her head on his shoulder. Maybe he will someday. Maybe prison will give him time to think, to change. Maybe, Vincent said. I hope so. What would you do if someone you once trusted tried to destroy everything you built? Subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. 6 months had passed since Tommy's arrest. Spring had arrived in Nashville, bringing warm weather and blooming flowers. The Second Chances Foundation was thriving, having helped over 200 people find new paths in life. Vincent and Grace had renewed their wedding vows in a small ceremony at Father O'Brien's church. Claire and Sophie were there, along with Rebecca, James, and many of the foundation's clients. It was a day of joy and celebration, of looking forward instead of back. Claire had started her nurse practitioner program while continuing to work part-time at both the hospital and the foundation. Dr. Hayes had arranged a scholarship to help with tuition, impressed by her dedication to serving the community. Sophie had won an award at school for her volunteer work. The local newspaper ran a story about her tutoring program, and other kids from her school started volunteering too. She was growing into a remarkable young woman, kind and confident. On a sunny Saturday in April, the foundation held an open house to celebrate their 6-month anniversary. The office was packed with clients, donors, volunteers, and community leaders. A banner hung across the main room. Hope changes everything. Vincent stood at a podium to address the crowd. Grace stood beside him, holding his hand. Claire and Sophie sat in the front row, smiling. 6 months ago, I was a different person, Vincent began. I was someone who had lost his way. Someone who valued power over people, money over meaning. Then I found myself tied to train tracks, facing death, and certain that I would die alone and unmourned. He paused, gathering his emotions. But then 2 angels came running toward me instead of away from me. A nurse named Claire and her daughter Sophie didn't see a criminal or mobster. They saw a human being who needed help, and they risked everything to save me. Sophie wiped her eyes. Claire put an arm around her daughter. That moment changed my life, Vincent continued. Not just because they saved me from the train, but because they showed me what real goodness looks like. They showed me that it's never too late to change. That forgiveness is possible. That redemption is real. He gestured around the room. Every person in this room is proof that second chances matter. Daniel, who came to us 6 months ago and now works for James Porter Construction. Patricia, who found housing and reconnected with her children. Robert, who completed addiction treatment and is celebrating 1 year sober. Each of you represents hope. Each of you shows that people can change when someone believes in them. Grace squeezed his hand. Vincent smiled at her. I also want to thank my wife Grace, who never stopped believing that the man she married was still inside me somewhere, who gave me another chance when I didn't deserve it. And Father Brian, who taught me that faith means trying to be better, even when you fail. Father Brian nodded from his seat. This foundation exists because Claire Bennett saved my life and then taught me how to live it, Vincent said. Every person we help, every life we change, it all traces back to that moment on the train tracks, to the choice two people made to stop and help a stranger. He looked directly at Claire. You once told me that everyone deserves kindness, even when it's hard. You showed me that truth. You lived it. And now, because of you, hundreds of people are living it too. The kindness you showed me has rippled out into this community and changed lives in ways you'll never fully know. Claire stood up and walked to the podium. Vincent stepped aside, giving her the microphone. I'm not good at speeches, Claire said, her voice shaking slightly. But I want to say something. When Sophie and I saw Vincent that night, we didn't stop to think about who he was or what he had done. We just saw someone who needed help. That's all. And that should be all it ever takes. She looked around the room. Vincent thanks me, but really, he did the hard work. He chose to change. He chose to use his resources to help others. He chose to be vulnerable and honest about his past. That takes more courage than anything Sophie and I did that night. Sophie joined her mother at the podium. Mr. Vincent says we saved him, but really, we all saved each other. He helped my mom pay our bills and go back to school. He gave us a place where we could help other people. He showed us that change is possible. That's worth more than anything. The crowd applauded. Vincent hugged them both, tears streaming down his face. After the speeches, people mingled and shared food. Detective Morrison pulled Vincent aside. I wanted you to know, Morrison said. Tommy started attending counseling sessions in prison. He's also been taking classes. His lawyer says he's genuinely trying to change. That's good, Vincent said, meaning it. Everyone deserves a second chance, Frank. Even Tommy. Even Tommy, Morrison agreed. You know, 6 months ago, if someone told me Vincent Romano would be running a charity and helping people, I would have laughed. But here you are. Here I am, Vincent said, still figuring it out day by day. As the sun set, Vincent found himself standing outside the foundation office with Grace, Claire, and Sophie. They watched the last guests leave, waving goodbye. What are you thinking? Grace asked him. I'm thinking about how different my life could have been, Vincent said. If Tommy had succeeded that night. If Claire and Sophie had driven past. If I had refused to change. But none of those things happened, Claire said. You're here. We're here. And we're doing good work. We are, Vincent agreed. He looked at Sophie. Thank you for teaching me that it's never too early or too late to help others. Sophie hugged him. You're welcome, Mr. Vincent. They stood together in the twilight, for people whose lives had intersected on a terrible night, and who had chosen to transform their terror into hope. The second chances. Foundation was more than a charity. It was proof that love is stronger than fear, that kindness can change the world, and that redemption is always possible. Vincent Romano had been tied beside train tracks, facing death and judgment. But a poor nurse and her brave daughter had rushed to save him, and in doing so, they had saved themselves. They had saved a community. They had shown that one act of kindness can ripple out into infinity. And that was worth more than any empire Vincent had ever built.